Well, former US President Jimmy Carter has died at the age of 100. He was the 39th Commander-in-Chief. Joining me is Sky News contributor Beau Davidson. Beau, good to see you. Thank you for joining me. What legacy does Jimmy Carter leave?
Well, first of all, he lived to be 100 years old, and he's the only president to live to be 100 years old. And I think that's a legacy in and of itself. And President-elect Trump said that we owe him a great deal of gratitude. And I think that's true because Jimmy Carter faced America's challenges with great fortitude and with faith. And I think that's to be respected. He also didn't exploit America, I think, a lot of the way that some of his modern Democrat presidents and colleagues have done. And I think that's really unfortunate. So I respect Jimmy Carter for not exploiting America the way a lot of modern Democrat presidents have done. But of course, his crowning achievement, I think, was, of course, the Carter Peace Accords, the Camp David Accords of 1978 between Israel and Egypt. That will go down incredibly in his legacy. But I also think, Danica, that his legacy will be incredibly remarked by his continued work after his presidency, which you would call a second act. And of course, I'm referring to his philanthropy and his charity, the Carter Work Project, Habitat for Humanity. I actually had the unique opportunity to work on a Habitat for Humanity house and build the home. And there's just a sense of community that comes with that I think that's really admirable. So, you know, it's not always what a president does during his presidency that determines his legacy, but what he does afterwards. And I think that Jimmy Carter's faith, his fortitude, his character, and his dignity will be remembered. So that's what Jimmy Carter will be known for, and it's a great legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are right. I mean, living to 100 is a legacy in itself. Now, let's move on because I have to ask you about Joe Biden, who is reportedly suffering from a new cognitive illness, this time in the form of regret and possible delusion. The president reportedly regrets having pulled out of this year's presidential race and believes he would have defeated Donald Trump in last month's election. Beau, how do you interpret these so-called reflections by Joe Biden?
Well, number one, I don't think he withdrew. I think he was ousted. I think he was forced out. I think it was a coup. Number two, I think that every sign pointed to him losing, perhaps even worse than Kamala. You know, after that first debate performance, his shuffling, his stumbling, his mumbling around, it was going to get worse. It did not bode well for Joe Biden to stay in the race. And that's why I say I think he potentially could have lost the race even worse than Kamala did. But it's interesting since we're talking about Jimmy Carter, because when asked what President Trump could learn from Jimmy Carter, Joe Biden said decency. And you know what? Actually, Joe Biden could learn from that too. Because there's an old saying that goes, you get out when the getting's good. And that's something Joe Biden didn't do. I think his legacy would be remembered a lot better and would be kinder to him if he got out when the getting was good. But he didn't. He selfishly stayed in. His wife, Jill, kept him in the race. He didn't need to be in the race because cognitively he couldn't do it. And so, to be honest with you, I think had he withdrawn earlier and not even sought a second term, he would have saved himself some decency. He would have saved himself some dignity, but he didn't do that. So Jimmy Carter's legacy will be remembered for philanthropy, while I think Joe Biden's legacy will be remembered by poopy pants.
Exactly. He did. He wrecked his own legacy in the end. I totally agree. Now let's talk about billionaires who have previously feuded with Donald Trump, but are now cozying up to him and coughing up seven-figure inaugural donations. Meta, of course, headed by Mark Zuckerberg, suspended Trump's Facebook and Instagram accounts in 2021 after the January 6 riots. And now we find out that Zuckerberg met with the incoming president at Mar-a-Lago a few weeks ago and handed him a $1 million donation. And the same goes for Amazon's billionaire founder, Jeff Bezos, who has also in the past clashed with Trump, but is now donating to that inauguration fund. Beau, I guess it is better to be in the Trump crowd than not.
Yeah, and I've actually have an interesting story about this, Danica, a personal story. Just a few weeks ago, just before Christmas, I actually had the opportunity to have dinner at Mar-a-Lago, and it's pretty rare that this would happen, but I had that opportunity, and someone had told me that Jeff Bezos might be there meeting with Trump, but I thought, well, I'll never see him. What are the chances of that? What are the chances of me seeing Donald Trump? And I'm sitting there, and of course, outside, in walks Donald Trump with Melania. And with them, accompanying them, is Jeff Bezos and his girlfriend. And they sit down to more than 20 feet from me. I couldn't believe it. It was just like, this is actually happening. And I'm sitting there watching them exchange pleasantries, laugh. There's a lot of great humor and things going on. I can't decipher the conversation, of course. And then in saunters a bomber jacket-clad Elon Musk. And I don't even think he was supposed to be there because he kind of just pulled up a chair. His son eventually came over. Trump starts DJing on the iPad. It was like, Danica, this is like $1 trillion of net worth sitting at the same table. And they're not even really hiding the fact of what they're doing and meeting with each other. And so what I have to say to that is, I think it's great because you know what? It's good to be the king. But it's also good to be friends with the king. It's simply good business acumen because you think about it, Trump said he would make America great again. He said he would make the economy great again. So it only makes sense for him to meet with business leaders, whether it's Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, whoever, to find out how to bring jobs back to the United States, how to make the American economy healthier, more robust. What can we do? What does that government-private partnership look like? And he's already got a $100 billion investment from SoftBank. So I think we're seeing that Donald Trump is starting to move and shake even before he becomes presidency. So the way I see it is, you know what? It's simply good business acumen.
Absolutely. And we do know that Donald Trump is a brilliant businessman at that. Beau Davidson, always good to chat. Thank you so much for your time.
Likewise, and Happy New Year.